Hey Nation, this is David Rivera Jr. and I was just about to make a smoothie to break my fast for the day, and I decided this is the perfect time to make the intermittent fasting video that everyone has been asking me to make. Now, I could have made one a long time ago, but I've been deferring from making a video because it's been such a hot topic over the last few months. And the first video I made was about dry fasting, and I mentioned how I got into dry fasting through intermittent fasting, so it was kind of my gateway to a kind of a fasting lifestyle. And so I dry fast 3 days out of the month, and for the other 27 or so days I intermittent fast. So let me tell you what intermittent fasting is, because it's very simple, and I'll start and I'll preface it by saying that all diets work, right? So no matter what you do to try to lose weight, if you do it and you stick to it, it's going to work. The problem is that intermittent fasting is not a diet. It's basically a lifestyle. It's a way to live, and it's a way to eat so that you're healthy throughout your whole life, and so that you don't have as many problems as you could have going into your old age. So, I didn't want to talk about all the things that everyone else was talking about. I wanted to answer some questions that people have been asking me in everyday life when I talk about intermittent fasting. So, a quick definition for intermittent fasting would be when you decide that you're not going to eat for a extended amount of time, and intermittent would be only eating within a certain block of time. Now, like I said, I've deferred for a long time in making a video about intermittent fasting, and it's precisely because of what I want to talk about now, and it's because no one else is talking about it except for a person by the name of Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and she talks about time-restricted eating in a way that no one else talks about it. And she makes it clear because, I like to say that, we know our own bodies, but a lot of times we don't listen to it. What happens is when you take your first bite of food in the morning, you kind of start an alarm, or you set off a timer in your body, because we're diurnal creatures, right? We don't live at night. So what happens is when you take that first bite of food in the morning, it starts a timer. So if you take for instance, if you drink a cup of coffee in the morning, and I'm not talking about coffee with sugar or cream, I'm talking about just a plain cup of black coffee, and a lot of people get it a little messed up because they say that, well, black coffee has no calories, so it's not going to have any effect. But that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because a lot of people don't get that coffee and caffeine is a xenobiotic, and it's going to start the metabolic enzymes off, and that's the timer that I was talking about, first thing in the morning. It does not matter if you're taking in tea, or if you're taking in supplements, or if you're taking in just plain caffeine from coffee. It's going to start those metabolic enzymes off, and believe it or not, there's a 12-hour timer to it. So if you start eating at 7 o'clock in the morning, or drink that first cup of coffee, it doesn't matter what you eat in the middle of the day, your last meal should not be after 7 o'clock at night. And why is that? Because when you're starting off those enzymes and those hormones that you set off in the morning when you take that first bite of food, they either shut off after 12 hours or they start spiking in ways that we really don't understand anymore. But what we do understand is that we do have a time clock, 12 hours. And we're really messing up our hormones, and the enzymes in our body our metabolic enzymes when we come past those 12 hours. The best time, when they studied it in the labs, what they found was that the best time was actually to eat within a 9-hour period. So I'll give you for instance, if you take your first meal in at 10 o'clock in the morning and you forego that first either cup of coffee or that bagel or that donut, whatever you first have in the morning, and you just wait till 10 o'clock in the morning, that means that you can have that first meal in the day, maybe have another meal at 3 o'clock, and you can either have that evening meal at 6 or 7, or you can have a late snack up to maybe 8 or 9 o'clock, and that will still put you within the 10 to 12 hour eating time that is most optimal to keep your hormones in place and to keep your metabolic enzymes from functioning the way that they're supposed to function. Now, there was a study that said that if you eat within an 11-hour period and don't eat for 13 hours, that women that had cancer had a reduced rate of recurring breast cancer of up to 40%. Now, that's because the IGF-1 levels were able to be brought down, because that's what happens when you eat few meals during the day. Okay, now the other thing is that people don't understand is that I used to work in law enforcement, but people that work in law enforcement have to work shift hours, and what happens is you wind up eating after hours. There's almost no way to keep yourself from eating within a 12-hour period. It also happens with nurses who have shift hours, and you'll notice there are statistics that say that all these people that keep these late hours and that eat at these late times have a higher incidence of heart disease and cancers than people that eat within those times. And so some of my friends have had the experience, and they say to me, well, I drank coffee in the morning and I still lost weight, and it's been working for me. And to that I say to them, just like I always say, every diet works. So if you restrict how many calories you eat, yes, you're going to lose weight. But if you drink that coffee in the morning, you can't call it fasting, because you're not going to reap all of the benefits that come with fasting, such as autophagy, which I talk about all the time. But there are so many other health benefits other than just losing weight. People have cleared up arteriosclerosis, diabetes. They've come off of many medications, doing intermittent fasting. So it's going to work at making you lose weight, but know that when it comes to the actual fasting part and the autophagy aspect of fasting, that every time you put anything in your body, you're resetting the clock for your fasting time. And also remember, with diurnal, we have a very small window of eating, once we start eating, for those metabolic enzymes to kick in and then to shut off. So be very careful with that. The next thing I wanted to talk about was another question that friends ask me all the time, and that is, why is it that they can't just eat less and spread out their eating? And for that, I just want to, and I don't want to get into a whole bunch of scientific explanation, but I feel the need to explain first ketosis, which is the physiological state where your body switches to using primarily fat for energy instead of sugar. So in saying that, I want to explain that what happens when you eat small amounts of food that are high in carbohydrates, what happens is that you're going to keep your body used to storing and using glucose for energy instead of fat. And that's not what you want. You want to teach your body how to use fat for energy so that your body is healthy at all times and that you don't store any extra fat. So what happens when you eat carbohydrates? First, the pancreas makes insulin to deal with it. Too much insulin, what it does, it hampers the hormone sensitivity lipase, which is necessary to mobilize the fat in your body. You can't do it otherwise. So because the body's having a hard time using fat for fuel, what it does, well, it does a couple of things. First, it slows down the metabolism to preserve energy. And then the second thing it does is it's going to start breaking down muscle. And this breaking down muscle is through a process called gluconeogenesis. And what happens is that when the body can't break down the insulin anymore and it's not used to breaking down fat, it will start breaking down your muscle. And if you're a bodybuilder, that's a very important thing. But for some reason, people that are obese ask me that question all the time, and it's kind of a working backwards thing, right? Because if you're already obese, you already have a proclivity toward eating a lot of carbohydrates, and it's just it's a vicious process. One of the other things that I think is important to talk about in intermittent fasting is exactly what I'm doing right now, and that's breaking your fast. And there's a few different ways that you can break your fast. And one of the things that I talk about in my long-term fasting videos is getting collagen into your body immediately, because that's what we make our fingernails with and all those other things in our body when we're trying to rebuild our body. But even in our everyday living, I'll give you a great scenario. A good friend of mine asked me about intermittent fasting, and I told him about it, and he was gung-ho about intermittent fasting, and he went full steam ahead, and he lost about 30 pounds intermittent fasting, but he started losing his hair and his skin wasn't looking right, and he wanted to blame the intermittent fasting. And I said to him, I asked him, what did you eat when you broke your fast? And he started to break down how he was eating hamburgers and french fries and fried chicken and milkshakes and Chinese food with plenty of MSG in it. And it's not like I had to do a bunch of labs on him and take blood and urine from him. It was obvious what was going on, and it was clear that he was eating within a certain window, so he was losing the weight that he was supposed to eat, but when he actually ate, he didn't give himself the nutrition that his body actually needed to repair itself. So yes, you can break up a lot of things in your body by doing this intermittent fasting, and you'll get well because your body will have time to fix itself when it's not spending all that time digesting food. So it's going to work in that way, but it's very, very important that you give it the nutrition, that you give your body the nutrition that it needs to fix itself. Otherwise, you're going to wind up like my friend, and you're going to find yourself with whites underneath your fingernails, and your hair will start falling out, and your skin's not going to look right. And that's counterproductive to what you're trying to do when you're doing intermittent fasting. You're trying to be as healthy as you possibly can. So this is how I do it when I don't take my collagen product, which I like to do at least, well, I do it every day, but I like to break my fast with it at least 3 times during the week. But what I like to do is make a green juice with kale and bananas and mangoes mostly, but everything that you see in front of you right now can be used in a smoothie drink, or if you want to juice it. I use coconut water because it's very important to hydrate yourself and to put all those electrolytes back in your body that you haven't done throughout the whole day that you are fasting. So, you know, people talk about carbohydrates, but when I actually do, as you can see, my stomach is flat. I don't need to lose weight. I used to be 230 pounds and I lost approximately 50 pounds. So, and that's due to intermittent fasting. And I don't get hungry anymore during the day. I eat between the hours of, I say between 4 and 8 o'clock at night. So I give myself 4 hours to eat. Usually I break my fast with a green juice, and then I'll have either a vegetarian meal. I try to eat vegetarian between 4 and 5 days a week. And then I try to have either a piece of chicken, organic of course, or a piece of grass-fed meat, so I can get my B12 in me, and so I can get the protein that I need during the week. You don't need a lot of protein to keep muscle, unless you're a bodybuilder, of course. Then you might need a little extra protein, and there are a bunch of different ways to get that. You can still bodybuild and intermittent fast. As a matter of fact, something that people don't know is that because people think that you're going to lose muscle if you fast all day, if you don't eat all day, but the truth is that if you intermittent fast and you only eat for 10 hours during the day, and you don't even have to do any exercise, you will gain lean muscle mass. Now, I don't like to give a lot of research. I mean, I do the research myself, and I'm not about giving vague answers, but I want to give people something to think about and something to make them go and do the research themselves. I'm going to give you the idea, but I really want you to go out and find the same information that I found. Now, I gave the name Dr. Rhonda Patrick in the beginning of the video, but I want to give another name, and that name is Dr. Jason Fung. And he wrote a very important book about intermittent fasting that I think you should look into. But even if you don't read it, he has many YouTube videos on intermittent fasting and what it's done for people with type 2 diabetes. And it's a very important study and a very important book. I'm not asking that you pick it up, but all the information is on YouTube. You have an opportunity to, if you're interested in intermittent fasting, that you have people like Rhonda Patrick and Jason Fung to really guide you. Now, I've given you the names of Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Dr. Jason Fung because the videos that I make are meant to kind of open your mind and show you a different path. And I wanted you to do your own research on intermittent fasting and long-term fasting. And I wanted you to be prepared if your private physician is not educated on these subjects, that you be ready to go to battle for your own health and be ready to provide your primary physician with answers that she or he possibly doesn't have for you. If you like anything that I've said, please subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, may the evil man be good, may the good man find peace, may he who finds peace be free, and may he who is free make others free. Thank you.